There we are. I think we'll go with yes.
Okay, we're gonna product place Pepsi.
Oh yeah, not sponsored, but if Pepsi would like to send me a giant check, I'm all for it.
I like the black Pepsi; it's good.
Yeah, welcome to Blog Thursday number 381. If everyone's wondering, if you went through the numbers, there's 2 377s, so it is actually 381. I did stare at that a second.
I count good.
I count good. Well, it's funny, the titles are wrong, but the video titles are right. The thumbnails are correct. Hopefully we have sound. Why is it? I'll bite. Usually there's instantly a bunch of people. What's causing this to do? So let me pull up the Googles to make sure we're actually live, because no one's commented yet. But it looks like the sound's working. Live stream. Okay, 34 viewers. Just not showing them on StreamYard for some reason.
Can we hear ourselves?
They will in a second.
Oh no. Yep.
All right, we do have audio. We hear it. Cool. I opened up the live thing and cool. There we go. Now we're seeing people. StreamYard is not showing people. Oh no, it is.
People have appeared.
People have appeared.
Wild people have appeared.
Sound confirmed. So everything kind of released at once. So pfSense had a release. So did TrueNAS. And I already did a video on the pfSense one. I don't know if I need to do a video on the TrueNAS because there's nothing that is in the release that's dramatically different than a release candidate, which I did a review of. So they added those new features. People asked about like SMB auditing. It tells you who's connected to what share, what files they have open, which is actually kind of cool. I mean, TrueNAS never had that before. Someone told me it was a limitation of the way Samba used to work, that the updates to Samba enable that to make it easier for them to do. I don't know.
I think I've been able to do that in Samba for a bit.
Yeah, maybe it just took a long time for the code to catch up to be able to do it. It does the same for NFS shares, but those are all the features I covered now in stable version. But the stable version was really not much of a change because the stable version was very stable. I think there was one UI element complaint I had that is now solved. And it was easy. When you clicked on something, you had to expand it twice. It would fail, and you click it again and it would expand. It was in the when you're setting up replication. Is it?
Roost has that, like where you'll get an error and like there's an error block there, but it's just empty JSON. But if you reload the page, then suddenly there's data in there. Yeah, it's a timing thing.
Yeah, timing thing. Did I lose my water? Oh, it's over there.
Oh, it's
okay.
There.
Thank you. Yeah. So, I don't know if it deserves a video, but but it now allows me to do some follow-up videos because one of the things I like is they're finally making it really easy for people to do shares. When you do shares in the new TrueNAS, when you create a data set, it has an option to automatically set the permissions, create the share, create the Windows SMB thing all in one go. Like when you create the data set, it just goes. And I think that's a pretty good feature because it always struggled with people.
On NFS here, especially on NFS, internally, Bryce was definitely doing the wrong thing with permissions on NFS. Use UID mapping is difficult. I've only peripherally played with that because I don't tend to do CIFS very much. How does it handle UID mapping?
It doesn't. Okay. So, you can. It's an option. Yeah. I tell people just 777. You secure it by IP address. You're
perpetuating the bad.
I am perpetuating the bag.
Don't point Copilot at your data.
So you can no longer edit DNSBL. Oh, that's interesting. So whatever rules you had prior, I'm sure there'll be a patch for that pretty quick.
It's just a plugin problem.
Yeah.
Probably not. Is that a core or is that a third-party thing, right?
It's a third-party, but the developer, BBCan, is super responsive. He's in France, and he's really on top of it. He just released a minor update for it because MaxMind changed their rules again. You used to just have to have a license key. Now you need a user ID to tie to your license key.
People are sharing license keys too much.
Yes, exactly that. So, yeah, absolutely. I've gotten SG3100 and now feel that FreeBSD has dropped the CPU. Is it worth getting a 2100? I would jump right to the 4200 if you can, but the 2100 is good. That's not a bad model by them for home use.
I presume the 3100 has a 32-bit CPU or something silly like that.
Yeah, it's past end of sale by a little while. They quit selling it a while back. Yeah, 3100 is a little older one. But people were complaining about the expensiveness of the $129 a year for pfSense Plus. I don't think that's an unreasonable price for a firewall.
Yeah,
for home users.
for anybody, right? Like I don't know. I feel like he's probably spend $129 on way dumber things. It's perfectly frank with you.
It's like it's an annual thing, and it's like $10 a month, roughly. I mean,
yeah, it's 10
and change,
75 a month.
1075, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and so he was. I can tell by his name. I know who this is. TVJ.
Yeah,
it was good. Thank you for coming to our presentation. Me and Jason just did a presentation over at the Toledo Club talking about AI. Should we do that as a YouTube video? I don't know. It's kind of. We could. We already did the work. We did the slide deck.
The work.
It's. We just have to go
Slides
talk.
Were done at what, 9 p.m. last night?
9 p.m. We finished the slides.
I think I started it. I had my stuff outlined a week ago. You had your stuff outlined a bit ago. We went back and forth on how we were going to do the slides. We decided on Canva. We couldn't figure out how to use Canva other than their canned templates. I finally got somebody here, one of our salespeople, to turn my PPT template into a Canva, and we got the slides done at like 9 p.m. last night.
Yep. And then I think we added a couple little things this morning. We ran through them and said, "Oh, let's add this." But no, the talk went well. We had a lot of people there, so we'll do that again. And maybe I don't know if these are fits for my channel to do those type of talks, but they're kind of fun.
Business technicalities for sure.
They're definitely fits on business technicalities because we talked about the business uses of AI. We talked about AI is overhyped. We talked about Copilot and SharePoint permissions being well. Jason did all the discovery on that not working properly. There's a lot of ways you can get around things on there.
Yeah, AIs are really good at improving discoverability of data you didn't know you had access to.
Yeah, which can be good or bad.
Yeah.
Microsoft's really pushing a Copilot, but I don't think it doesn't live up to the hype that they're putting into it.
It's not $30 a month. I mean, speaking of not worth it, if somebody's complaining about spending $129 a year on pfSense, like for home, $30 a month for Copilot, I'm not seeing it right now.
Yeah, that's a lot. $30 per user. Yeah. Will it make that user $30 more productive? Microsoft says yes.
That bar's pretty low.
Yeah, $30 more productivity is low. Like for you, the email thing may make it worth it.
I mean, yeah, honestly, it's less than an hour, half hour a month of savings for me. The bar's pretty low there.
Yeah. Now that Palo Alto has patched their OpenSSL, as soon as I seen there was a bug in Palo Alto, I'm like, it's going to be in the OpenSSL VPN. Can those just die?
So they only exist because everyone blocks outbound IPsec, right? And GRE and all the other L2TP. I mean,
and no one wants
everyone should block L2TP because it's a terrible protocol. But I mean, everyone blocks up on firewall. So they're like, we'll just run our firewall on 443 and no one will block that. And
then they run it with an SSL cert.
Now it's a web app, and web apps are hard.
Yes. Web apps are hard is the answer for why no one should be using those. That's why I like OpenVPN, which can be run on 443 to avoid issues, but no one wants to deal with handling certificates because it's harder to go handle certificates on each person's computer.
It is. I mean, and to be fair, it's not like OpenSS or OpenVPN hasn't had its own share.
No, it's not perfect
issues,
but it's gone through 2 independent code audits, and any of the issues they found were not. You always had to have a cert to get further.
Yes.
They haven't found one where you didn't. And that's because one thing we know well is you need a cert to talk to it.
To be fair, at least Cisco, you can configure the SSL VPN the same way where you require a cert to do it.
No one does it.
Nobody does it.
Nobody does it.
Right. So you can do it. And it would probably be the same thing where you would need the cert to get any further, but no one configures it that way.
Yep. So I've gotten on UniFi's good side again, I guess. I will say I'll word it that way because they sent me the beta version so I could test out their UniFi failover. I like how it works. I think it's a cool HA. Shadow Gateway. We were making fun of how dumb the name is in the office. So, but then again, isn't that a good thing?
It's like Shadow IT.
Well, it's because we're talking about it. So
it's a gateway you don't know exists.
It's a gateway you don't know exists. It's in the shadows.
It's in the shadows until it's ready to club you in the knee.
Yeah. But what I like about it is, one, they made it easy. The way you set it up is so stupid, but you'll like this. First, you plug in the first one. You just go through normal config. You plug in the second one and make sure it's up to date with the latest firmware. Then you take the WAN on port on the second one and plug it into any LAN port of the first one. And then it figures it out, configures it, puts it in shadow mode. Then you take port 7 on both and connect them. Done. and now they work.
I have
That's it.
so many questions about how I can spoof that to get the config off of the active mate by pretending to be a failover pair.
I didn't say we weren't going to really
access. No, this is my spidey senses are now at 11.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to poke at it. This is
one. Hey, Ubiquiti, send me one so I can do all the bad things with it.
Yep. You know, I can get another copy of the with JSON there, and we're going to poke at it. They have a bug bounty program.
Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah.
Maybe I can earn enough money to buy one.
Yeah. And they'll send us more, I think. We have enough to poke at. I mean, you poke at the ones I have. Yeah. I have the firmware, so I can reload them. I think it's cool though, because from an ease of use, because you go this way, click, yes, set up. Then you plug them in, port 7. I think it's port 7 on both of them, and say yes, and then it just works. So from an ease of use, I think they nailed it. And but it's not the same as the way pfSense does it. It's not an active where all the state tables are synced up. So there's a pause and a loss. Also, fun fact, it doesn't have all the recordings on it. So even though it is for Firewall, but the recordings aren't there, but it will pick up all your cameras on the second one.
I mean, my struggle with that is that this is a relatively solved problem. And it seems like Ubiquiti went out of their way to solve it in a way that is not the industry solved way, right? VRRP is a pretty standard at this point, right? Like I realize syncing state tables is hard, syncing camera stuff is hard. It's like you cross over these things in gig ports or 10 gig ports, probably depending on the model between the two of them. Is there really any excuse to not mirror that camera data and all the other, like there's really no excuse to not do that.
Yeah, and you look at Synology, who does do all of that. Yeah. They do it with Linbit on the back end. It's all, like you said,
these are solved problems.
Yeah, they didn't have to invent the architecture to do it. Synology's using Linbit on the back end to synchronize the Synologies. These are not, Synology doesn't say that they're using Linbit, but if you SSH in, you can find it.
And to be fair, Ubiquiti has gotten themselves in trouble multiple times with these ease of use, auto discoverability things, and the fact that you can do shady things with them.
Yeah.
So I will fully expect that this is going to be the same thing. And I wonder how much it leaks. Are they smart? Do they set the TTL of those packets to 1, or can I just listen to all my, like if I'm on a GPON network where they're not doing proper isolation between the WAN hosts, can I just see all the dream machines and then just grab? Yeah, I have so many questions.
I've seen people do the normal reviews. I'm going to do we're going to poke at it review, because I want to know everything on the back end.
Yeah, if you have the firmware, I'll just run it through a bin walk. And
you don't even need to, because you can SSH into the box. So
true.
Well, you can see it in action.
Bin walk, so I don't have to bother doing that. I'll just mount it somewhere.
Yeah,
it's just a disk image.
Well, and we were talking about this earlier, and there's also a design choice that I'm not thrilled with. So Ubiquiti is really pushing that everything tie into the UniFi site manager. The problem with and I'm going to do a video on this about the architecture of site manager and how they do this, which means, Brett's leaving, wave goodbye. Which means when you tie something to site manager, an extra set of keys is made. Site manager, the hosted solution from UniFi, installs a key that allows persistent access to your system. That way, when you log into UniFi, that key is then accessible to you to pivot to the other devices. That's not uncommon. They're not the only ones doing this, but it's still a design choice. And this design choice is what led everyone to be able to see earlier this year other people's controllers, specifically around their UniFi camera system. So it also makes you a giant target, because you, Ubiquiti, are now the credential manager for all things in the site manager.
Yeah. And my big worry there is that they are admittedly not a company that seems to lead security first.
They were bad about it for a while. They've come completely better.
Yeah. But I mean, even the HA thing is an example of, like, I haven't poked at it yet. Maybe I'm completely wrong and off base, but my initial thought on that is, man, there seem to be a lot of potential ways to shady that, right? So it wasn't, did that go through security review? What's a security review look like? What's a security review of the site manager look like? How did it possibly get past QA that you could see somebody else's data?
Yeah.
Like, so many questions.
Yeah. So there's concerns I have about that as an implementation, because we have to put our trust in other vendors. The fact that we're using some of the ConnectWise things that are hosted at ConnectWise, or the fact that we're using NinjaOne. we have to have a trust level with Ninja One, but we don't want to add more people to that list. Like the list is already too big. It is the reality of running an IT company.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, like, and all of them are there, right? When Ninja One, when I first looked at their Linux agent, I immediately reported 7 out-of-date libraries in their Linux agent that had vulnerabilities in them, like literally immediately.
Yeah.
So you definitely place your trust in third parties as far as security goes, and the fact that they're on top of things.
Yeah, it's one of those things. So we're always, as a company, you're trying to mitigate risk, not only for our clients, but also for us. So we try to figure out, each partner, how does their system work? This is why we go through, we've got a couple of business technicalities talks on vetting vendors. It's to say Ubiquiti has a bug bounty program. They've been very active and proactive on a lot of things. Their security guy is on Twitter. He's very interactive with the crowd.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, right, like we're still in a world where 80% of breaches or more are credential misuse, right? So like these concerns, while they are concerns because you could get widespread attack, they tend to be concerns that you have to worry about once all the dumb things that you aren't doing right are done, right? So, stop reusing passwords. Like it's more likely that your reused password or your lack of MFA is going to compromise you than some third party thing like that.
Yep. Also, someone else who was at our AI talk today. So awesome. Cool. We know people liked it. We want to do another one of those. We want to do one probably in Detroit too. So we'll do a Detroit. We did this one in Toledo, the AI talk we did. We'll do another one in Detroit, and we'll throw it on Business Technicalities. I think it's a good content video. It's a good longer form one about, and I think it's popular.
Yeah, you recorded it, so literally we could just put the video of it on Business Technicalities.
Yeah, or we could run through this. We could also run through the slide deck together I think that'd be better presented.
Yeah, probably.
Because it will be more concise because we're not doing any type of crowd work.
Yeah, that's true.
I know we're trying to save work.
Whatever.
Whatever. It's not too much work.
It's nice? Using a talk more than once.
I love using a talk more than once.
I've only got like 3 that I've ever done that I've given more than once. And so much time and effort goes into it. Even if it's not like so much mental baggage gets carried around until it happens. And then when you only get to use it once, you're like, man, that was a whole lot of effort for that 50 minutes the one time I gave it.
I know. So getting reuse out of it. I think AI is me and Jason are much more the voices of reason when it comes to the AI. We are not hyping it up. We have no AI to sell you.
We're anti-hype.
Yeah, we're anti-hype. We're trying to get to the practical, and our journey to get to the practical, we want to share with you because we found a lot of impractical along that way. That's probably an easy way to describe the BS.
I mean, AI is great for making drinks.
It is a great drink maker. Yeah. And if there's something Sam Altman should be out there doing,
100%.
He should be out there. Look, man, invest in a machine that does good mixed drinks.
But even that, I had to teach it, explicitly give it instructions to stop mixing blue carousel with orange juice because it looks like mud.
Yeah. That's, Omada had a chance to blow UniFi out of the water, and it's still mad. It will always be mad because Omada basically copied UniFi in the worst way. They even copied all the quirky bugs. They certainly have terrible documentation. Matter of fact, that's a common thing people come up with is, hey, I know how to do this in UniFi, and it looks like UniFi, but it doesn't seem to work. Eric has told me a few times when we were doing some Omada consulting that he didn't want to do it no more because of some of the quirks he ran into, where he just had to reset everything.
I don't get it, right? So like we live in this world where Ubiquiti is very, very inexpensive. Dumbly, insanely cheap. And people seem to want a cheaper option. Like this is totally erased. Go buy TP-Link or
well, that's what TP-Link is, Omada.
Yeah. Go buy those, right? Like there we go. We hit the bottom of that race. Just live there if that's where you want to live. Ubiquiti has, to me, a good mix of cost versus feature, right? There's things about it that I don't like that you get that are better and more expensive platforms, but you pay more expensive prices for it. I mean, admittedly, we do a lot in Meraki, which is the other end of that. They're expensive. I just don't know what you're aiming for. Like, oh, Ubiquiti's too expensive. Like, what is your budget? Nothing?
Yeah, because the Omada stuff is only like 15% less.
Yeah.
So they've had security vulnerabilities. They've been really slow. They were slow to pixel log4j because, by the way, because they built it off the same platform like UniFi did. They were slow on top of that. They were slow on some other updates. You don't know when they're going to end of life it because their documentation doesn't tell you that.
Ubiquiti says it does the same thing.
They similar. but it's been a little bit even less clear with the Omada stuff.
Yeah.
And for what, 15% off?
Ubiquiti Talk has entered the chat.
Oh yeah, Ubiquiti Talk. We don't push that. We've had a lot of people ask us about it. So
we turned one of those away this week.
Yeah. I'm not surprised by this. So the TrueCharts apps, you can add those charts. They're Helm charts. You can add them into, I believe they're based off Helm. They're loosely because they did Kubernetes, but their own way. The problem is you're always going to have them chasing TrueNAS with TrueCharts because they try to make something compatible, but TrueNAS, the IX system team, does not build based on the way the people at TrueCharts wants them to.
The ABI is not guaranteed between releases. Use the API or supported public interfaces if you want consistency between releases. If you talk to a private ABI and it changes, that's so sad.
Yeah. So they're always going to, I don't really use them anymore because I kept finding just buggy. I also disagreed with some of their philosophies. One of the things they were telling people to do, and they've now switched, they were telling them to use, what's the native Kubernetes storage system? It's called PVE, I think. But
yes.
But the problem with PVE storage, they tell you to use it, but then they tell you to use the command line tool to figure out where your PVE storage is because there's no way.
Yeah, that's just host mount, right? Like essentially, it's just host mounted folders. Is that the one you're talking about?
No, it's some type of. It gives it like a UUID for each one of the storage nodes.
Yeah.
And there's no way to because they're not visible inside of the UI.
Yes.
You have to go to the command line.
It's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Yep. Then you have to align them. The problem is people don't know where their data is.
Yeah.
And so when things get broke, they don't know how to back it up until they lose something. You're like, oh, I thought I was backing everything up.
That is the story of Kubernetes. It works until it
PVC.
doesn't, and then you spend PVC. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I've never run that. I usually use, if I need persistent, it's host mounted, or I'll do Ceph.
Yeah.
Or NFS.
Yeah. And host mounted is the way I've always, whenever I show someone how to set up any app, host mounted is the way because, and you can do this, by the way, in a lot of the TrueChart apps. You can tell them to host mount. And I disagreed with people on the True chat one. I was just like, why are you guys recommending this? Because people get confused. Oh, it's for advanced users. I'm like, but
how is it advanced? It's just another layer of abstraction.
Well, if the average Next and Yes people start using it, then they go, oh, how do I recover this? How do I back it up? I'm like, that's where the challenge comes in.
That is the entire challenge of Kubernetes is there's like 9 people in the world that actually understand how it's all glued together. So it's a successful wizard-based experience until it's not.
Yeah. That's, what is it? Swift on Security, one of my favorite tweets they ever had. It said, someone asked me what Kubernetes is. An hour later, neither of us know what Kubernetes is.
I mean, I like it. I've used it. I've got plenty of experience with it. I would not let my devs here deploy it because they didn't understand it, right? And then what would happen is I run into this already, like less so because I stop them from doing things like this. Then it breaks and they're like, Jason, help me. And it's like, I can, but it's like somebody other than me needs to understand it for us to deploy it.
Yeah, that's always the challenge. Just because me and Jason know something, it's about what we can actually support. That's why when I people can hire us for things, it's on my website. I've said it in a bunch of videos. But sometimes when people get confused why we decline some things, I'm like, well, that's because this is not a normal production thing. Maybe I talk about it, but it's kind of for you to understand, but not for us. It's not a supported option from us necessarily.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll transparently here at the risk of angering people, the number of MSPs that we get, so these are people selling consulting that set things up, presumably by watching your videos, and then when they break, don't understand why it's broken and how to fix it and reach out to us to try to fix it for them when this is a solution they've sold to a customer astounds me. I would never sell a thing I did not understand and know how to fix.
We'll go with this answer.
Yeah.
Kubernetes people are speaking in tongues. Yes.
I mean, the 2 ways that Kubernetes tends to break in weird, mysterious ways, networking and storage.
Yeah. What's actually even more fun is there is I think it's called the Cloud Security Podcast. There's an episode with Google's security engineering team, and they talk about monitoring and securing Kubernetes. Wow. Like, talk about what happens when someone infects your Kubernetes cluster. And even though you could identify the infected one, the rollback of finding out how that one got created and why certain ones are created with an infection or a problem or a configuration flaw. That was a fun episode. I was like, okay, and this guy gets it. And he's talking about how high level this is. They understand it at Google. They're using it at scale, but they also very eloquently go through the challenges of managing, monitoring Google size, because Google doesn't have a problem that's not at scale. I heard that from one of the Google engineers. Someone says kind of a problem at scale, and they say that's the only kind of problems we have. Yeah. There's nothing Google doesn't do currently that's not like, because when they have a YouTube, it's not just a problem at scale. Like, yeah, there's 1 billion users here. Yeah. So yeah, this is a big problem. Let's see. Best way to secure Kubernetes is not to install.
So, I mean, Kubernetes has a use case, and people should use Kubernetes if it is totally the use case. However, there are plenty of other lighter weight options like Docker Swarm or Helm. I guess Helm is on top of Kubernetes normally, but there's plenty of other container orchestration systems you can run that are not nearly as complex, that get you 80% of the features that you need in Kubernetes, and that other 20% you only need at scale.
Yeah.
Right. So like if you are not planning to scale up or scale down or do rolling deployments or canary deployments or any of the other patterns that Kubernetes makes really easy to do, don't use Kubernetes. Like it is a complication layer you've now added to your systems, and you run into the situation where the thing you put in place to assure high availability is the thing that causes you to not have high availability.
Yeah. It's, the same thing. Like TechnoTim, another YouTube friend, he does some of the Kubernetes videos because that's what he does. And it's fun to learn if your career path is going there. That's a good excuse to use it in the Homelab, because your career path, you want a job in tech doing that. But some home users just want to do it because they've seen someone talking about it. And that can be quite, that's where they often, I think you can almost discourage some people in tech because they get overwhelmed. Yeah,
I mean, I have Kubernetes running and I have a cluster with some stuff in it, but it's all playthings. I would never run production workloads in Kubernetes in a home lab because I don't need anything that needs any of those features. And I'm not planning. I mean, we support it. We will support it if people want it, right? But we don't run even CNWR supports the back end of a large nationwide prepaid cellular brand. And we almost moved that back end to Kubernetes. But you know what? We have Terraform with Puppet working great. Things are virtualized. We have some containers that we run stuff in, but we're just using Docker. And we're assuring high availability by running the Docker containers on multiple nodes with safeguards to restart them if they die and a load balancer in front of them. And that is good enough for what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mentioned pfSense earlier that they had the new update. I did a video on it. I don't really have anything more to add to pfSense. Like someone commented, I don't use the DNS blocker, and we don't for our clients. This comes up way too much. If we are deploying pfSense for people, they almost always have Active Directory. Active Directory handles DNS, so we're not using the DNS syncholing. pfSense is not going to handle DNS where Active Directory exists. Yeah. That's a bad idea. So I don't run that much PF blocker. Matter of fact, I prefer browser plugins because if I have a site that won't load because it's some elements blocked, I'd rather click the little icon up in my browser.
Man, and I've run into, there was a huge long time bug where if you're running a Ubiquiti access point in Pi-hole, it just didn't work. There's all sorts of weirdness when you use those sorts of things that they just don't work with various infrastructures. So I don't know.
Yeah. But in terms of running pfSense, I really like the latest update. I mean, it's gone really well. I updated a few systems. We still haven't pushed it out to all of our clients yet. The way that works internally is generate tickets, techs get assigned.
We'll get to them.
They get to them. There's nothing.
There's no security things I saw in it that require immediate attention. So we typically do it, honestly, on a quarterly rolling basis because upgrading is trading a known set of bugs for an unknown set of bugs. So if there's no big security things, we typically try to let it bake a little bit.
Yeah, because there may be even some patch that comes out afterwards. But when security we're on top of, but just because it's the latest, I like to run it because I want to know if there's any questions.
Yeah.
And so internally, I updated the lab. I updated.
Yeah, we'll update. Like we've got
stuff.
Our lab one here. Like they're just moving that to a 4200, I think. We're about to order a pair of 1537s, I think, for the edge at our colo.
Okay.
We'll do HA on those, and but we'll push it to those. But I won't push it to client ones until we're ready. Yeah.
You could technically do a DNS forwarder back to pfSense to leverage.
Could. Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
I mean, there's a million ways to handle that.
Browser plugins are definitely a way to go for desktops, but I find it annoying to run without an ad blocker when browsing on my phone.
Yeah.
What you run into though is if you have a wife who likes clicker games, you can block all the DNS.
Yeah.
Some of the clicker games stop.
I mean, a lot of things like you run into the problem, and I had this problem when I ran Pi-hole. I ran Pi-hole for years at home, and something would get blocked. Something would get blocked. The thing you're trying to use has technology that detects that you're blocking it, and then it doesn't work. And now it's like, now I have to go log into Pi-hole, figure out what request is getting blocked, create an it's just now a thing that you could just click a button. Now I have to go deal with.
Yeah.
I'm not the escalation point for my whole family. I don't want to have to do that.
Yeah. It comes down to simplicity. I seen someone, shockingly, only one person, I don't know why they mentioned OpenSense. I might do an updated video on pfSense versus OpenSense because I have varied opinions on things. And one of them is that this was all published, and I have this, there's a whole discussion inside my forums on this. One, OpenSense is consistently slow on security updates because they don't have the same staff. And everyone's like, well, you're giving them a hard time. They don't have the same level of engineering. I'm like, well, yeah, but these are firewalls. These are between you and the outside world.
So you're the underdog and you want to win. How do you win? You have to do something better than the people you're trying to beat. It. Like, you don't win just by being different, right? Like, you have to do something better. What are they doing better? That's the question I want to answer. What are they doing better than pfSense?
Yeah. And they do have a more modern UI.
Okay.
But does that matter?
So how often do you log into your firewall to do things?
Not very often at all.
I bet you, I'm guessing the reason you log into that most is to press the update button or to do videos.
Yeah, mostly to do videos.
Like, I have a pfSense. So I have a system here in the building, right? It's pfSense. I log into it to update it. I'm not in it every day. The fact that the UI isn't the greatest thing and the UX isn't awesome, who cares? The 3 times a year I need to do a firewall rule change. Oh my God, it's a little bit more complicated. Oh yeah. No. It's not a feature.
That's to me that, yeah. And once you're used to a UI as technicians, because especially UIs we don't log into all the time, we really don't want them to change.
Yeah.
pfSense published that they have over 10 million active installs right now. That being said, with that many active installs, what's going to be happier? The users that don't want to use it because it doesn't have a new UI, or the 10 million existing people that get, why'd you change where the buttons are?
And so it's putting the business hat on it. Like having 11 or 13 techs out there, right? Like, it is a very real cost to retrain people when things like that change. So,
yeah, that's another side of it. The other thing about OpenSense, and this is just a fact, they're a small team. They are downstream people from BSD. They pull from BSD. They wait for the updates to come through. Netgate contributes 16% of the commits, but more importantly of that is what commits they're doing. Because one of the funniest things that someone had said in there, someone's like, well, Netflix does this, but they were talking about all the features that Netflix has done nothing about because it matters none to Netflix. Netflix is one of the biggest contributors to BSD. And they're like, yeah, but Netflix does Netflix commits, things that make Netflix happy. And by the way, Netgate happens to favor commits that are for firewalls. So OpenSense is not only downstream, they rely on those features for Netgate to push to BSD, and then those features, drivers for certain network infrastructure. It's one of the things people like, well, if Netgate should go away, I'm like, but literally, when you talk about 15% of the commits in a code base that are dedicated to firewalls, where do you think those people go if Netgate quits contributing to BSD or stops existing?
I mean, we're seeing that already with TrueNAS.
Yep.
Oh, like a lot of the storage back end, a lot of that stuff will bit rot now without them.
Oh yeah, that's a huge loss because IX systems, they always, if you in the BSD communities, the 2 anchor projects are IX systems and TrueNAS for core, and Netgate and their contributions with BSD. They all kinds of advanced networking features. You can go look at the commits. This is all public information, by the way. You start digging into what Netgate's doing. You're like, well, they're pushing the boundaries and updating the BGP functionality, updating that. Who else cares about it? Because Netflix probably doesn't care about BGP because they just use it for storage and streaming.
No, they probably run BGP.
There's probably, yeah, you might be right about that. But it works for what they need. I'm sure they use BGP within their infrastructure.
The parts of it that they need to work fine.
Right. So there's not a lot of changes. So it kind of becomes a problem. And people do talk about this. And I don't know if this will happen. Will they build pfSense for Linux? I doubt it. I don't think they want to, it's not that you can't. It's not that you can't write the code. It's whether or not you want to write the code. Yeah. It is a massive expense. It's not just a kernel swap here. it is extreme. Granted, some of the libraries are.
Yeah, I mean, you can get PF for Linux. I mean, but it would make more sense for them to do IP tables because that's what most Linux uses these days. But yeah.
And they're developing a UI for Tensor.
Yeah.
So at what point is Tensor the option with a UI on top of it because it's already on Linux? It already has vector packet routing. They've done, matter of fact, they've done a massive contribution to the integration to all the, you can read through what they built, but they're the contributor upstream to the, it's got a weird name. It starts with a C. Calypso. There's some.
Cumulus.
It's not Cumulus. Clixon.
Oh, I don't know that one.
It's a weird, but it's a big open source library. They're contributing back. It's part of the orchestration tool. I have a feeling Tensor's, I don't know. I mean, this is me speaking. I don't know the people well enough. I don't have any direct connection. I mean, I talk to the Netgate people from time to time, but they're not spilling their secrets to me and telling me what the roadmap looks like. But either way, it wouldn't surprise me if, I don't think they're going to drop pfSense anytime soon. It's still super popular with 10 million user install base. But I mean, people just spitballing here talking about that. It's there's a lot that Netgate does for the community, as much as people complain about them, and often for the right reasons, like their stupid rug pull with the license that they decided to put back with the, I mean, they made dumb decisions. Then they owned up to the dumb decision, but
their decisions that they made aren't any different than the decisions you see a lot of these projects take.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, consider how UniFi could get rug pulled with a change to the Mongo license.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's so many things that we love and use that could very easily end up with the same rug pull happening.
Yeah. That's and to go a little bit further with firewalls, I made a list, and maybe I should do a dedicated video. So me and Jay, I did the list inside a video talking about open source firewalls on the Homelab show. I just talked about them, but I have that once again. I want to reuse the presentation, and because that was targeted at podcasts, I didn't present. I could put together an in-depth presentation. The first open source firewall I used was called. It was before Open, not Open. Was it Fire? It was Fire something. IPCOP. I'm sorry. It was
okay. I remember that.
Yeah. But just before IPCOP was Mandrake. Linux Mandrake had the firewall distribution.
Yes, it did. And that was IP chain probably on the backside. Yep.
It was one of the first ones with a web UI and things like that. So I've been using and playing with open source firewalls for over 25 years. So I made a long list of all the ones I've used, all the adjacent ones. And by the way, these are all dead projects, all of them. They have all, because they couldn't find any funding. They couldn't find enough developers. They couldn't put it together. So when people even talk about forking it, I'm like, you don't realize how many, I think there's like 6 kernel developers working at Netgate.
Yeah. So the only reason Netgate's made it is because of wireless ISP in the ISP industry, right? Like because it became that, and MikroTik became like the de facto standard that a lot of those businesses were using because they could properly do rate limiting for multiple customers, a bunch of other like really weird features that most of you probably never use that those edge industries used,
and they were the most affordable solution.
Yeah, they allowed them to make commercial, like pay us a little bit of money to help support this, which allowed the funding, which allowed them to grow, which allowed them to get where they are today.
I mean, even if you use the complete CE version, open source version, you still have FRR, BGP. You have incredibly powerful tools that you can't find another firewall with that feature set in the open source world at that level.
You just have to, any Linux box can do it, or any FreeBSD box can do those
technically,
things.
Yes.
Without a web, you can't find a pretty web UI around all those things.
Yes.
Different thing.
Yeah, you can't find something that's already been pre-glued together. You can absolutely glue all the services together. FRR is not invented by people at Netgate. It is just has a web UI inside of it.
At the ISP, we literally sold and distributed a firewall we built that was OpenBSD based originally. Remember that? And then later was FreeBSD or Linux based that used IPFW, right? We just directly managed it. We didn't need a web UI. We managed it via CLI, but yeah. So you can totally do it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a great market, and people, someone goes, by the way, I can't remember the name of it, and it's not that relevant because you wouldn't find anything there. They've tagged me in Twitter a couple times. Someone forked TrueNAS Core. They've done no code commits. They just made the announcement that they're forking it, which I don't understand why they're forking it. Because to me, TrueNAS Core, they're not exactly, they're just saying, look, we're not putting a bunch of effort into it. We're going to keep security patches update. We're going to do this for the next, they've kind of laid out a roadmap going.
Yeah. The problem is when FreeBSD 14 dies, then it in theory dies because you won't get security updates anymore.
Right.
So if they're going to keep it ported to the latest FreeBSD and not add any other new features to it, that may be perfectly fine for people.
Yeah. And I think it, from a feature complete, what more do you want out of a NAS? It has SMB.
Yeah.
It has NFS.
I mean, honestly, I'm going to say the controversial thing, because that's what I do. The only people that are sad are people doing arguably dumb things with their storage, right? So like things like Ceph notwithstanding, which you obviously can't do on the FreeBSD side, if literally all you want is a NetApp, right? Like that does SMB, NFS, and iSCSI, then Core is all you're ever going to need.
Yeah. And for our commercial clients that are using it, the one we just sold 2 petabytes of servers over in Ypsilanti, they are fine using something like Core because they just use it for massive data storage.
That's all I use it for. We've got
we have Core
stack
systems.
of them. I've got a stack of them now. Probably 6 or 8 of them we're using for backup target storage and VMware storage and all those things. And I only want them to be storage. They do NFS and iSCSI or some combination of the two. I don't even do Samba. I don't even do CIFS on them most of the time.
Oh, what did someone say? Oh, there's. What was the fix for the Wi-Fi job you guys said? Looking for that video. Oh, yeah, we should talk a little bit about that. That's my goal next week is me and you to. I'm going to put most of it together, and I need you for some talking points on it.
So I said something earlier that I said was controversial, which is, people watching the videos and then they do, they don't understand, and understand's a bad word for it, but they take things too far. And that was 100%.
Yeah.
They had their power on all the access points turned way, way, way down. So they're like, well, now you can only hear 3 access points. Well, that comes with the only being able to hear 3 access points. So,
well, and here's the thing. I've talked to people and said, you can do this. I talked about it at a warehouse where we didn't have to set the power very high. Please note, warehouse, not building in New York.
Yep.
Those are different animals because the warehouse, around the warehouse was 200 docks on one side, a parking lot filled with trailers. You know what's not within like a quarter mile of this building? A Wi-Fi access point that they don't own.
I mean, when you put yourself, so if every channel's in use, which I could hear 300 access points sitting in there, standing in their location. Now, 17 of them were theirs, right? I think another 15 were Instacarts that was on the floor above them, right? So that's what, 32? I can hear 270 additional access points standing in their building. So when you turn yourself down to 6 milliwatts, guess what that means? Your neighbor is now overpowering you because somebody's on your channel. There aren't that many channels. Yeah.
So the fix was really cranking it up so they were louder so they could hear their access points.
And then channel mapping. Right?
Channel mapping.
Yeah, just make sure you don't reuse channels or you're very conservative about how you do that.
Right.
I mean, in their case, as long as you're willing to use the DFS channels on 5 gig, which is all they were using, they had 17 access points. There's 20 channels in 5 gig, not overlapping at 20 megahertz.
Yep.
They literally didn't need to reuse channels. We didn't use all the DFS channels. So like on opposite end of the building, we would put conference rooms on the same channel and then we would lower the power there.
Yep. No big demand for FCOE. Was that fiber channel?
Fiber channel over Ethernet?
Yeah, fiber channel. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
Why? I mean, you can do it.
They already had existing systems, so 6 gig wasn't an option.
No, their stuff did 6 gig.
I thought only part of it did.
No,
did everything do
only
it?
the in-walls didn't because they were all the U6 enterprise stuff. So they all did it. The client support's not good enough yet, honestly.
I think that's the bigger issue.
So there were a couple things. 6 gig requires, so it's Wi-Fi 7, so they want you to use WPA3 with it, and their identity provider, so they were using something that backend, Jump Cloud, backend to Okta, I think, and it did not support WPA3.
Yeah, Jump Cloud Okta mix doesn't support WPA3.
Yeah.
Dutch cybersecurity guy. We like Dutch people. What are your thoughts on keeping clients safe? What do you use his approach?
Lock all their computers in a closet is the only way.
Yeah, take all their computers away. Actually, if you go on my there's a video we did on business technicalities. It's embedded, easy way to find it, along with all the lists and the details. Me and Jason did a client defense matrix, and you'll find that on my forums. There's a whole spreadsheet with all the details of the layers and layers of things, and the video explains the layers and layers of things you do to keep clients safe. But it's client defense matrix. Do you work for governments? Occasionally.
Yes. Depends what they need.
Yeah. There's rules.
Whatever. I mean,
yeah, as long as it's like within the wheelhouse of what we do.
Yeah.
We don't specifically seek them out because we don't play politics really well. So we're not.
It's not that. So I don't do RFPs because they're a waste of time, right? So in government entities are notoriously bad about having to RFP everything. So what happens is in the traditional world is that the incumbent provider provides the RFP to the company. And as somebody that has done that and lived on the other side of it, you know how you win that? You make sure there's something in it that only you can do.
Yep.
So you tend to not get enough specs. The question period is dumb and short. And so 20 hours goes into responding to this RFP only to have them, if your answer is the best, take that answer, give it to their incumbent provider, and just get a better price on the thing that you offered to provide. And you end up doing work for free.
Yeah. It's dealing with the whole RFP system. People ask every now and then about that. It's a better business technicalities question. Get over there and ask it. But it's definitely, if you guys, you should do a video called "No, I Won't Do Your RFP."
Yeah,
that's a good topic.
I mean, that is actually a really good topic. I mean, I've done tons of government work. There's if you dig back into the archives of the Toledo Blade here, the pseudo government organization in Northwest Ohio here they're in the big white building over there, the government center. They do all the wants warrants lookup, the lead stuff for our area. So like they do all of the local police departments. They tie in all the wants warrants data and aggregate it. They moved buildings and they opened this brand new, it's on Monroe Street, just up the road over there, 911 building. And no one bothered to ensure connectivity between the old building and the new building when they opened it. Oh. So none of the sheriffs or none of the dispatchers could look up warrant information. And they called me, and I'm not named in the article, but it says a local IT provider. They brought me in and I tunneled the IP traffic over IPX on the traffic light fiber network to deliver IP as a tunnel to this thing until they could get the connectivity turned up. So I have definitely done lots of work with government agencies.
Yeah. The way I say politicking is I've done city work over the years, more than once. I have no problem doing the work.
Done state.
We did state because we did technically, because those projects, have any of them, I feel like we did one of them in November.
Did. Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah, we did the state of Michigan employment agencies.
Yeah, but it's not like, it's just
indirect, it's wiring.
Yeah, it's just wiring. As far as IT stuff goes, I've done several cities. I've done those pseudo government agencies, and I've done a good amount of work with like the universities. But yeah,
like we don't mind doing the work. We hate the politics, RFCs, and that stuff. That's the part we don't want to do. The bureaucracy.
The business piece of doing that work.
Yeah, the business piece of doing that work.
It's not worth it.
Let's see. I don't know what my next video is. It might be one on TrueNAS because now that I've updated all the systems, I don't always like to do things on day one releases, but I tested a release candidate. I updated 5 servers. They all worked. Maybe I'll do a video saying nothing exploded after 3 days. It's a decent answer. That's a short video. Here's the new features. If you didn't watch my previous video, there's still the release candidate features now made it to the full release. Shocker. Let's see. Yeah, nobody wants to put out RFPs. Yeah. Well, you know what? How many projects don't get done because some IT person says, I don't want to make an RFP for that. No one enjoys the process on either side.
No, I mean, the problem is there's companies that exist that know all of the places I'm going to say the word cheat, right? Like, and we ran into that a lot. We had a guy from, I think he was in your chat earlier, the guy from the Lave Electric company. One of the other electric companies, we partnered with them to do the technology side of several of their RFPs. And we ended up losing them to large out-of-state people that knew all of the places. So I quoted a full Cisco thing because it said, right, but I used the models that made sense. And I don't do dumb things, right? It's like they require 270 ports of PoE, but they require 400 total ports. So guess what? I do PoE everywhere, right? Because it's dumb to not do that. But you know how you win that RFP? You do 270 ports of PoE, and then all the other switches are non-PoE. From a long-term supportability standpoint, that's a dumb decision for the school to do. But yeah, RFPs they put you at odds with providing the right solution, because the right solution is standardization of all that hardware. So you have spares and all the other things that come along with it. And yeah, I'm just not a fan.
Well, and related to our AI talk, one of the gentlemen there was talking about his job is to review almost 100-page contracts, not RFPs, not the parts, the contract with a bunch of gotchas in it, and how AI can help with that. So it's just a pain all the way around. Yes. DPC, I don't know if do you know them? Actually, are you going to be at MSP GeekCon, DPC Technology? They're an MSP down in Florida. Recurring revenue is based on relationships, communication. RFPs are built to avoid both. Yes. You can tell he's a real MSP.
I mean, we've got one we did for a while, and then I've got another one from a government agency, a pseudo government agency, that an RFP went out, and I think Lori responded to it without asking, and then we ended up in it. I think we're going to win it, and that is for recurring revenue, right? But it's like, they come back to us and you're like, you're more expensive than all the other competitors. I'm like, well, it's apples to oranges comparison, right? And that's the problem, is that we are a value-based organization. We are more expensive than many of our competitors. We are more like, you can almost always find a cheaper solution for what we do, right? But we provide a higher depth of knowledge, right? Like, you've got people like us backstopping it when shit literally hits the fan. They're cleaning it up. And that comes with a slightly higher cost. And the RFP process takes none of that into consideration. You don't get to sell on value. You only get to sell on price. And that's just not a good fit for us.
Yeah. We really, just as a team, we sell on value. We have a lot of technicians here and a lot of skill that they have. Some of them have weird, giant depths of knowledge on some subjects and things like that. And it's the reason we do so much storage server consulting. That's kind of a weird niche for an MSP, to have a few people that understand storage servers to operate at scale. But this is now, we've niched into some of the movie business as well, and providing service and support for companies that they're not the production company. They're the middle. There's a lot of components to a production company. They didn't film the superhero movie you watched, but they may have color graded it. Yeah. So there's a lot of moving parts. At some point, they held on to the movie, manipulated it, did VFX work on top of the movie, and then it gets passed along.
And then the one guy is in a couple of them.
Oh, yeah. We learned that one.
Yeah, I figured that out.
Yeah. Who are those extras? Well, those are the employees that work, or sometimes the owners of the companies, because they all know each other. Yeah. Hollywood's a small world. Hey, guys, would you still recommend a Sonic Vault? No, we can stop there.
Yeah. Over the new Cloud Gateway Ultra
for small business, less than 10 employees.
What's the Cloud Gateway Ultra?
That's another new one that they came out with. Let me look that one up. Cloud Gateway Ultra. I should buy one. I should have just one of all the Ubiquiti stuff.
Oh, it's Ubiquiti. Oh, it's that thing. You had one of those at your house, didn't you?
No, this is a slightly varied model from the other one. They make two of these. Okay. They make the home one, and this is supposed to be like the Ultra is the business one, because it has some other feature. Because this one handles like 30 devices versus the other one.
So depends on your use case. I still defend the fact that if you are required to have IDS, IPS features, that those are not good solutions for those things. So that is the one case that I would sell SonicWall over that, but generally I wouldn't sell SonicWall. Sorry, Michelle.
Yeah.
I know the channel chief over there, Michelle.
Oh yeah, Michelle.
She's super nice.
I really like her. I wish she wasn't at SonicWall, because
she was at Cisco.
Yeah.
And so to be fair, it's a perfectly fine product. It's perfectly serviceable. It's just sold by so many smaller MSPs that don't know how to configure it, that I just haven't, I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way. And then the fact that they're owned by Dell for a bit, that double rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah. I mean, it has the Ubiquiti version of it.
Yeah, but it's just Suricata. You can't do custom rule sets, right?
Right.
Like, you can't do,
Exactly. So it's so, yeah. It'll check the compliance box. It doesn't.
Maybe, probably.
It checks the compliance box.
Yeah.
It doesn't really comply. How's that?
And the performance goes to turd when you do that, by the way. It's way underpowered CPU-wise.
This one's supposed to be faster than the one I have now. That's why I want to order this one. Okay. I know I got to test it. The other one tells you its limitation. Yeah. This one's supposed to overcome that.
But even the one that they were running at the place, I mean, the Wi-Fi assessment place, which I think we're allowed to name. Yeah. They had the IPS IDS stuff in there, and like they had a 1 gig link, and they were only able to get a couple hundred meg on it with that shit turned on. Right. The new ones, like the one I have, can actually. CPU. Well, the one I have now, the one they sent me, the what is it, Dream Machine Ultra, or they've got the new Ultra naming. That one can actually do 2 gigs with IDS. Okay. Because it has 10 gig connectors. Which rule set? The one that had what the rules that they have. Yeah, you only get one. Yeah. What do you mean which one? The one Ubiquiti installs. Then the other thing with that is the interface around running the IDS IPS, right? Like those things. So what do you do with that data, right? So now you've got IPS IDS. Does it support connecting to a SIM or some sort of other centralized thing to do rulement? Like it's not. They're not good solutions for that. But admittedly, neither are Sonic-Wall.
Do you have enough resources, technical implementation to keep the systems of your clients up to date? Yes. The way we update everything is.
Oh, we just got bit by that. Yay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. BIOS updates on the Lenovo's.
Lenovo's, yeah. So we use tools, right? Like obviously.
We use automation to make that work.
Yeah, I think we are 300 to 1-ish right now. So 300-ish endpoints to one technician. And, you rely on a lot of automation to make that work. And sometimes vendors do dumb things and you end up getting bit by it.
Yep. How do you upgrade? Well, there's plenty.
Do distribution upgrade.
Yeah, just upgrade.
Click button, get upgrade.
Click button, get upgrade.
If it's RHEL, then you cry in a corner and reinstall it.
Yeah, but no, USSHN, there's easy instructions.
Actually, as a matter of fact, if you pay, it even warns you, and it fires up another SSHD on another port and tells you to SSH into that while you do the upgrade, because if it dies, those server-based OSs, if you're running a Ubuntu server, they are made to support that.
Yep, they work well for it too. Firmware, we talked a little bit about this earlier. We try to do it on like a quarterly unless there's a security reason to do it sooner. So we go through and quarterly go through and update all the firmware on things. Ubiquiti makes it really easy for the sites that are running them, and so does Meraki.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Ubiquiti stuff and a lot of the Meraki stuff, we just have auto update on and it's scheduled quarterly.
Yeah.
And it works well. Usually it lags, right, unless there's security updates. And the nice thing is that it lets us manually push it to a couple to make sure it's not going to explode before we do it.
Yep.
Typically don't want to be the first one running a new version in production for the reasons. I mean, I don't want to be able to see everyone else's cameras and I don't want them to see mine.
You're building a pfSense box to test a 2020 WAN using Intel XVT10's WAN 3 LAN port.
Is that 20 gig by 20 gig or 20 meg by 20 meg? What's the 20 by 20?
I'm assuming you mean 20 gig by 20 gig because you said, is there a reasonable 25 gig switch out there?
Yes, there are several 25 gig switches, but you actually won't find a pfSense model that you can buy that'll do 25 gig line rate. Even the 1541 only does 18 to my knowledge.
Yep. And matter of fact, the challenge you run into is it's a streaming problem. It takes a super fast CPU to get that stream to go through, so it's aggregate lots of bandwidth. Yeah. Like if you do iPerf, and I should probably do a separate demo on this because I did the demo when I reviewed one of the 15, I think it's like a 1535, one of the higher end Netgates. I showed how even that higher end Netgate is limited not to 10 gig, but single stream like 2.8 gigs.
I mean, the honest answer to that is it doesn't matter because there is no content you're gonna hit on the other end that is going to provide you 20 gigs of data. And I mean, I have 17 people in this office regularly, and we're 100 meg symmetric. Yeah. And unless we're doing backups or I'm downloading Llama models, we tend to not hit the limit. I cannot fathomly understand why I would need a 20 gig by 20 gig. And even if I had 20 by 20, I would be perfectly fine with something that would do 10 gig line rate. And then as soon as you turn any features on, they're not going to do anywhere near that.
Yeah. Cody says, and I haven't tested or reviewed mine fully, but Cody says 5 gig with full IPS with the new. That's the one they just sent me.
Okay.
And they have more models that they're working on that are allegedly going to get all the way up to that 10 gig speed. But do you think Ubiquiti Firewall will ever get controlled to replace pfSense for business use? No, I don't. I don't think that they're.
I don't think they're trying to.
No, they're targeting a different audience. They're trying to decide what should or shouldn't go inside their firewalls. And here's an interesting example, and you could probably speak to this better. Everyone thinks they can do it. Like when they look at what pfSense has done, until you actually sit down. Even if I gave you here's $10 million, and you probably couldn't build the same firewall as pfSense because you'd have a hard time finding the dev team, spinning it up. It's not that it can't be done. It's that it's not that easy to find developers that know exactly how to build a firewall that can do all those things. There's not like this. It's just people with money, because you look at the size. Last I checked, I think the market cap on Ubiquiti is something like $9 billion. So not short on money. They even hired the former founder of pfSense who left later. It's not that they can't find it. It's finding a team to work together to actually develop a product that's very complicated is really not that easy. You've worked with development, so that's what I was saying. You speak to that.
What do you want out of it, right? So like, honestly, this comes down to the earlier question too, right? It's like, if you don't have anyone actively monitoring IPS IDS and you're literally just doing it to check a box, then all of these things are they're all the same. Like there's not, like I don't ever log into my firewall. I'm
right.
The only reason I'm Meraki at home. So as a partner, I get stupidly cheap discounts on Meraki stuff for internal use. So I have an MX68 at home with a full advanced security license on it. The only reason I ever use that console to log into this stupid thing is to kick my kid's computer off the internet. Literally, it's the only reason I'm ever in it, is to manage what they can and can't get to and to change the policy on them so they're blocked. These aren't things that, unless you've approached the mid enterprise range or the where you actively have to monitor security and stuff on it, then they're all the same and it's a commodity. And that is the market, that commodity market, the mass-produced giant numbers. That is the market that Ubiquiti is targeting.
Yep.
That is not necessarily the market that pfSense is targeting. pfSense is targeting providers, people like managed services providers, other places that do have slightly higher needs, and they are successful there.
And one of the things I've done this before is I helped several of my friends who work in security set up pfSense because it's got things like packet capture and things like that. So if you're a security engineer, pfSense is kind of a fun tool to play with because you can do fun extra things with it. Once again, it makes it into that niche, and it's not even Ubiquiti's target. So they will never get full feature parity because it's far off from what the people they're trying to use.
They don't want to get. They could. They could. But from a high-level perspective, and so the key word here is from a supportability perspective, it's not worth adding those extra features because the number of resources you have to put behind supporting it,
right?
It's not your target market, right? So like you end up Ubiquiti is targeting the 80%.
Yep.
Right. Whereas pfSense is targeting the other 20% in many cases.
Yeah. It can be used by that 80%, but their target is that little niche right there. And that's kind of what it comes down to. We'll take a couple more questions. I know you got to go soon. Mm-hmm. What do you think of HP buying lots of companies? It sucks.
Whatever. It is what it is.
It is what it is. The market sucks for doing that.
HP, go buy everyone that Broadcom wants to buy so that you can be slightly less evil than they are.
That's a low bar, but and especially with HP and their you must put a credit card in for your printer to work so you can buy the
well, so okay, let's separate HPE from HP proper.
True.
Right? Like I mean, I don't know. That is the way the world works.
It is better or worse. It's working. It's above my pay grade. Is there any way to pen test something similar for top end UniFi products? I don't understand the question. I mean, pen testing tools, go watch a lot of pen testing. Go watch some John Hammond and show why reverse engineer stuff. The tools are available to you to poke at it, and Ubiquiti has a bug bounty program. So
we can hit that last one in your list if you want.
All right.
We buy stuff from Tech Supply Direct, Save My Server, and then I use a company called Server Express, SEI, to put repeated warranties on them that I pay a monthly. It's usually pretty reasonable, and then they stock in a local warehouse the parts to replace things.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one. Okay.
Yep, that's right.
Came in. Yeah.
Yep. So they were asking which hardware resellers we use. So yeah, some
Tech
options.
Supply Direct and Save My Server have both been good.
Yep. People at Tech Supply Direct, I got an offer code on them, get you a discount. But Save My Server is good. So is one more I'll go mention too. If you're looking for used Supermicro specifically, they have a YouTube channel. I can't remember their name now. But if you type in FreeNAS on eBay or TrueNAS, you'll find their stuff. I can't remember their name.
Oh, I know.
Unix Surplus.
Okay, I haven't seen that one. There's another one. Storage Reviews.
Yeah,
they're local. They're in Slovenia. They're like right up the road. They're another one.
I would need to set up a system which routes via VPN back to my house, circumvent Netflix IP block, pfSense or Linux for this. I mean, you can do that with pfSense.
Yeah,
doing full tunnel VPN, so you can be somewhere but then come out in the right IP address, so you can stream things.
You have a VLAN set up at your house that does that.
Yep.
That so you can shady. I'm gonna have to set that up when you do the hackening. So because I was talking to Matt yesterday, and one of the things we want to make sure is we're not coming from our IPs when we do that shadiness.
Yeah,
it's legal shadiness, but it's shadiness.
We have a big project we're working on the back end. We'll be making as many videos as possible about it once it all is done. The hackening. Follow Jason on LinkedIn. That's where you find it. If you look for the hackening on Jason, some of that stuff's public. Yeah, Open Tofu is where it's at now.
Yeah, Hashicorp. I mean, Hashicorp is one of those. So I'm an old Puppet user, and they came in with the Splash. Console was amazing. Terraform, Vault, like all those really cool Hashicorp things, and it was inevitable that eventually somebody was going to buy them. As far as people to buy, IBM has a reasonably good track record with the open source stuff they've bought, not being totally done with it. So better them than somebody like Microsoft that would have just killed it off outright.
Yeah.
So
IBM's the least worst choice is what we're trying to say.
Correct.
It's not the best choice. It's the least worst.
Red Hat might have been okay, but yeah.
I was at the AI presentation earlier. Very interesting informational. Great job. Thank you very much. And message us if you want to see some more talks, if you have a topic. Art of the Server is the other one. Art of the Server is the guy that shows you how to reflash all your Dell stuff to be JBOD.
Oh, yeah, we just did that. We had that one that was at our colo that I inherited when I bought the colo, that they were running 10 or 12 RAID zeros VDs, and then drives would fail, and there's no easy way to replace them. So we reflashed it to IT mode, and all life is good.
We keep saying we're going to set up Netbox. Do we have a Netbox running here we're using? Yeah. But are we using it?
No. Yes.
Okay, on the other company side, it is.
On that side, we are definitely using it. On our side, I'm not sure we are. We were. I would like to do it again. So
it's on my to-do list to set it up.
Yeah. And I mean, we actually had it set up. Somebody here wrote some scripts that inventory via Nmap, and then just populate data in it, which was super convenient.
You can also tie it. There's a direct plugin for XCP&G, so as you create VMs, they auto-populate in it.
So we had that, and then it's actually super nice for the IPAM pieces of it, so you can keep track of that. And if you get it right, the rack diagrams are really convenient, and you can even label cables in it. It will keep track of what cables go between what ports they live on. It's really cool. It requires a non-zero amount of work to keep up to date, like all documentation systems, but it is awesome. Yeah,
they've done a lot of automation with it, but for now, yes, a spreadsheet is where I put things. It's easier. I still manage Sophos XG. Should I replace them with pfSense? If you're not unhappy with them, keep going with what you know.
Again, it comes down to if you have subscriptions and you're getting the like Talos or the ET threat fees and all those other things, what you'll find is that you'll move it to pfSense. You're going to have to run Snort or Suricata to get the same features, which is okay. But then you're still going to have to license those threat fees, and you'll find that it's not really a whole lot cheaper than what you're paying your present provider.
Yeah. Use what you know, because it's faster for you to support. Photo editing, Canva. I don't use any. I use GIMP.
I use Photoshop.
Yeah.
I have a Adobe Cloud subscription. I'm sorry. I've used GIMP for many, many years. Yeah, Photoshop's not that expensive now with the Creative Cloud.
Yeah. For the TVs, I would do Wi-Fi, pfSense, Wi-Fi cards. Don't use Wi-Fi. That's dumb.
Don't do that.
Netbox is awesome.
Put them on their own network and then just route the whole network with a VPN.
Cable tracing is cool in it. Yes, lots of work to keep it current. Jason.
So that is the entire. So I have a love-hate relationship with documentation. I resisted it. I didn't document anything for a long part of my career. The reason I didn't is because I would get into an environment, I would be given documentation, and the documentation would be trash. So I didn't trust documentation, and as a result, I didn't generate any documentation because I'm just contributing to the nonsense problem. As I've matured and realized that compliance frameworks and other things exist, we update, we create, and try to keep documentation up to date. It is always a trade-off between having it documented and having it up to date or not documenting it at all, because the thing that's worse than no documentation is wrong documentation. In companies, somebody gave me this stat, and I would have to independently verify it, but we live that way, west, east, the other west, the non-westy west, east of here. About 30 miles is Davis-Besse Nuclear Power Generation Station. And I have been told by at least 2 people that worked there that something like 20% of their budget is spent keeping all of their documentation and run books up to date because they are required by the NEC or NR, whatever, the nuclear regulatory people, to have a contingency plan for any event that has more than like a 0.005% probability of happening. So our nuclear power plant here in 1998 got hit by a tornado, and they literally pulled a binder off of a shelf that had a run book of what to do if the nuclear power plant gets hit by a tornado because they were required to have it. But again, from what I've been told, it's like 20% of their operating budget keeping that shit up to date, right? So like there's a non-zero cost that comes with that.
Yeah. My other friend I didn't realize, thought about this as a job. She was the head of one of the very large accounting companies. Think like QuickBooks. I forget the company. It's a parent company of them.
Intuit?
Yeah, what's the company that does all the trading software too? They make all the creative solution software that accountants use.
Oh, I don't know.
Anyways, her job and her team's job was full-time, nonstop updating the documentation for that. All the help files. That's all they did. They had a team that just did that. I was like, how many are in your team? Like, it's just nonstop. Every time the change, we have to go through the changes. We have to update documentation so all the accountants know where to find the things. It's just like, I'm like, that's a lot. Like, there's so many people involved in it. Hello, bearded IT dad. And look at that beard. Yes, you guys both have the IT beard thing going on. He's got a good channel. He talks about IT career stuff. Jason would make a good guest because Jason's had a long IT career.
I got to scoot out of here in like 1 minute. So what else you got? You want to wrap or you want to keep going?
We can wrap. Is there a budget for radiation protection? Yeah, I'm sure there is.
I'm sure there is. My brother-in-law is a commercial electrician and does a lot of work out there, and it's his favorite job because he doesn't do any work. Because like literally, you say you're laying a conduit from here to across the room, which is what, 10, 15 feet away.
Yeah.
You have to have an anchor every 3 feet, and every 3 foot, somebody has to come out, inspect the spot you want to put the anchor, go back, calculate, and then sign off on it. So literally it's an entire day job to install that piece of conduit between here and there.
No, that's not fun. How is UniFi's firewall in real life terms, removing actual threats compared to pfSense, Fortinet, and Cisco used for a small company?
It's not.
They all suck.
Yeah, so the world of the edge firewall being the thing that actually saves you from anything, man, that ship has sailed so long ago. These people are rotating IPs. Like the ET threat coverage is good, like the emerging threats, and a couple of those other threat feeds that come from like the reputable. Sophos has a really good threat feed that you can subscribe to. The Talos, the emerging threat ones, and a couple of the others. Those are really good threat feeds, but you can subscribe to those feeds on any of your firewalls.
Yeah, they're mediocre. It's just not where everything's encrypted
it's on the
nowadays.
endpoint. Yeah, it's all encrypted traffic going to weird IPs on port 443. Like it just looks like any other traffic.
Yep. Is there a magic tool? And I don't mean a hammer that can crack open external hard drive when the password.
Nope.
Not if you modern encryption.
Not if it's done right.
Yeah.
You need a time machine to go not lose the password.
Do you know of any good open source change management system? I'm going to say Git.
Yeah. I mean,
it works for the Linux kernel.
Request tracker. Like there's so many, like you just need a ticketing system with some customization around it.
Yeah. Do you think we could release more price friendly 2.5 gig switches this year? I think they're already price friendly. We talked about that earlier. They can only go so low. They're maybe the hardware will get cheaper as it gets commoditized, as it does, but I don't know how when. So, Tom, not sure if your portable set up or just CNWR office, but your video pauses randomly. Audio is fine, freezes for a second.
I don't know.
Bandwidth
could be. What network are you on? Are you on the guest network?
I'm on the right one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't really understand why it's doing it. Who knows? I noticed it said that the connection was unstable a couple times.
Yeah.
We're using Meraki. That's probably why.
No.
You just came in here to let me know Network Chuck is back. Okay. That's nice.
That's cool.
I mean, he's a nice guy.
I like Network Chuck stuff, but like
it's not.
Me and Jason to it. It's too high level.
Yeah, me and Jason are not the target audience.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's really cool, and it's really his production quality is really high, but like it's not. He's not
as deep dive on things because I
don't learn from him.
And Chuck's a great guy.
Yeah.
He's just not someone like me and Jason are IT practitioners for 25 years working, so to speak, like Jason's story about running an IPX network with a tunnel over it, over a traffic network to bridge two things together. That's stuff that me and Jason have been hacking away, making things happen for a long, long time. It's a different perspective we have. And by the way, I don't start at beginner videos at all. I'm not the let's get started. Oh yeah, here we go.
The date on this is 2007. It is mine.
Yes. So that's a whole, it's just one of those things. And by the way, I always look at the YouTube ecosystem and the educational ecosystem. There's a reason there's tiers of classes and things like that. You start out with, I don't know what I want to do in tech. You don't start out with Tom and Jason diving over what IPX and GRE are. Those are different spots to start on your tech journey.
Yep. Okay, last question. Take that one.
This one?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Do you ever work on OT
Yes.
systems?
I love ladder logic. I hate ladder logic. There you go. End of story. Yes. They are a security shit show.
Yeah. You know what? Someone said, I thought, and they were really nailed it. They said it's actually the problem with all the different, between SCADA, any of the manufacturing and system like that, it's never that the system is the problem. It's that someone in management said, can you put a web interface on that so I can see it?
But it's not even that, right? So where was it? It was the dairy. I won't name their name, but I ran an ESSA scan and I broke their entire network because they put their SCADA, they put their industrial control stuff on the same network as all their PCs. So I ran an ESSA scan on it and knocked down all the PLCs.
Large scale commercial farming is scary.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all that stuff, right? So like there's a whole internet adage that makes the internet work and has for many years. And that is be conservative in what you send and liberal in what you receive, right? So like that handles the fact that the standards are mostly standard and maybe we're not quite right, but we'll figure it out. They are not liberal about what they receive at all. When they receive things they don't understand, they lock up and they're done. And they're like, yeah, peace out. I'm out. I don't understand this thing. I'm just going to quit. And I mean, I guess if you're safety critical, that maybe you just go into the safe mode, that may be the right thing to do. But man, that's really inconvenient. So yeah, we have a good amount of manufacturing clients and we've definitely dealt with OT systems in manufacturing. If you're not familiar with the US, I know we have a few non-US people in here. The Detroit, Toledo area is a big manufacturing hub. So we have a lot of automotive here. A lot of automotive. We have absolutely intersected with all of it. Yeah, I run some Red Hat Linux systems for a giant steel manufacturer. There's all sorts of things like that we've done. Yeah, all kinds of fun stuff. Well, I'm actually roasting. If you notice, the sun is coming up on me. So we are going to end this live stream here before I get sun tanned. Should have done it at my office. We probably should have. We'll do that next time. So I've been trying to do I'm thinking every other Thursday I'll come down here and that's great. Yeah, hang out. I'm gonna go visit the people. He's got somewhere he's got to run to. I'm gonna go hang out with the people in the office. And I'm going up your way. Oh, yeah, you're heading up my way to hang out. Yeah, I'm going to roll hook. He's coming to Michigan. Yep.
So awesome. Thanks to everyone for joining us. It was a great time. Head over to the forums.lawrencesystems.com. Ask questions there. Me and Jason are pretty easy to get a hold of. We've been talking about, I still haven't set up the form yet for the free tech support thing. I'll do that where me and Jason noodle around some problems, but we're still getting that. People asking, what are we doing for dinner? I overate chicken. I don't know what Jason's doing,
I
but
don't know what I'm doing.
I eat too much food and I don't want to eat again
I
now.
want more cookies, so I might actually have one.
Cookies sound good too. So
Okay.
my son will want pizza. I already know that. I'll pick a pizza up for him.
And we'll get a ticket into the ticketing system from your pizza order.
Oh, that's right. That's a fun story. We'll tell that another time.
Yeah, okay.
How time ordering a pizza went into the ticketing system. Later.
See ya later.
Oh man, even that's